We're back, guys. Welcome back to MattByron.com. With us today is my great friend, Michael Caggiano. Caggiano, welcome to the show.
Yes, Matt. Good
Great
to be
to
back,
see you,
man.
brother.
Glad to be
Yes.
back. Glad to get this meeting up and running.
So great to have another meeting here. This is kind of like an impromptu meeting because earlier today you sent me a text like, Byron, I've got this great idea. We got to do a real estate summit tonight. I'm like, okay, Caggiano, we'll make it happen. So bear with us here, but this is very much a spontaneous update. This is like really exciting news here Caggiano is going to have for us about a key real estate finding that he made today. But before we jump into that, Caggiano, I do want to thank you for helping my sister buy her first property. She followed her Section 8 Secrets advice, and she used it to filter out the exact right county in the entire country to buy a property. We were a little bit nervous, honestly, at first. But she went into it. She bought property. She paid like $214,000 for it, I believe. And as of today, she has her first tenant for $2,800, which is amazing, Caggiano. So thank you for that.
Absolutely, man. That is awesome. Yeah. And it's always great to see our clients succeed. And, I have a few other clients that have kind of gone gangbusters. And, one guy's bought 6 properties in the past 4 months. Another one's got up to 4, and they were at 0. And, between
Awesome.
the two of them, they're up to 10, and now your sister's there. And and we found those like through the analyzer tool that we have, that you're able to pinpoint the FMRs, the rent to value ratios with a heat map of all the states, and dive deep into the county level as well. And then so you see a state, and then you want to dive deeper into that state, look at the county, and we it's over 3,300 counties that heat maps them, and targets a 40th percentiles, targets a 2-bedroom, a 3-bedroom, with all the data on there, the demographic data, insurance rates, populations, crime rates, and unemployment rates, and all that stuff. So great to see and hear that your sister's killing it. So
yeah, I mean, it's really cool, guys. Seriously, to go from theory, this is like an idea of yours, a theory of yours, and to actually see it like really working in a very effective way. So I think gives tremendous credibility, sincerely, to what you guys have done, and I've worked really hard to build it. So nice work.
No, great to hear, man. Absolutely.
Yeah. So what's this big update, Caggiano? You got some big news you want to share with me today? What is happening here?
Yeah, man. So, last week I spoke at what's called Subject 2 Financing in North Carolina. So, a Sub 2 financing meeting that was happening here locally in Raleigh, North Carolina. And it was a great meeting. Got invited from a client of Section 8 Secrets that's been a client for a little over a year now. And he's been part of the Sub 2 meetup for about 3 years. And he's talked numerous times about Section 8. And he said, Mike, would you be open and available to speak at this? And so anyway, all stars aligned, and I spoke last week. And following the meeting, we, you kind of have like an FAQ and stuff like that. We're just talking to people. And we started randomly talking about other investments, like what are these people doing? And, they have another source of income, a W-2 job. And then we hit on 401k. And most of these people that had a job that were at this meeting also were contributing to a 401k. And, when I'm looking at this thinking, okay, well, I do the same, and I'll do it up to the match of the company match, because I do feel like you're leaving money on the table. But what we talked about more so is that there's no real underwriting. There's no real guidance. There's no opportunity for you to really talk about what are the variables that go into making a decision on what 401k plan you're going to contribute to. Is it a Roth? Is it a traditional? How much money are you going to do? Is it a percentage? Is it a fixed amount? Like, none of that occurs. And this is a serious amount of cash. And I started thinking more like, how much really is it? And it becomes multiple down payments on houses. Like, it could amount to 10 properties, right? By the time
you know what's crazy too, Cash. I'm just thinking about this right now, is that you talk about the underwriting for buying real estate and the lack of underwriting on investments. It's amazing how Americans will work 10, 20, or 30 years, and they're putting all their money into an investment account. And yet, how many hours, days, or weeks do they spend, doing due diligence on those investments? How much time do they spend researching their investments? They probably spend more time researching what pair of shoes to buy or where to go on vacation than they do on planning their life savings in retirement, which is crazy.
It's crazy, isn't it? And then when you look back and you see how much of that was principal, how much did you personally put in? And we're talking 300,000-400,000 principal just to see, 1.5 million or something like that. And that's a crazy amount to not have any underwriting done. And we just trust the system, right? You just kind of cross your fingers, trust the system. And I think about how much underwriting I do on one measly deal. You know what I mean? I mean, it could be hours, and it's kind of fun to do as well. You learn the numbers better. You learn where your money's going and where you can. It's almost like a game of chess. You learn what moves you can make. Do you put more money down to get a lower rate? Do you push the financing out? Do you go with a variable rate? Do you do a 20-year? Do 15, 30-year, et cetera? There's all these different variables you can look at that can change your approach to what you're doing in investing in real estate.
Yeah.
And we do none of that though for 401k. So we just thought it was a kind of an eye opening. So after talking in that meeting, I started to realize like I think there's a real need here to be able to see this. And so what we wanted to do, and what Luke is our operations guy, I had been talking to him about this like about a month ago, and
Yeah.
we were just working on an analysis. So basically, just side by side. Well, we took it one step further, and this is what was exciting. We were able to really work some formulas into this. It's a Google Doc, Excel Google Doc, where it feeds a lot of different information. That's a lot of moving pieces because you have income,
Yeah.
you have tax brackets that you need to be concerned about. You have penalties, prepayment penalties, withdrawal penalties. Uh,
Yeah.
we have all the mortgage side too to put in there. We have depreciation, appreciation, we have FMR appreciation. So a lot of different moving pieces, but we were able to, what the exciting moment when I talked to you like 2 days ago about it was when we finished it. So
Yeah.
started about a month ago. We were talking about it. We got it into a Google Doc form, and it was just a side by side. But then we were able to take it another step further and have it be an underwriting tool. So literally, if you want to cash out, we have a cash out tab as well. If you want to figure out should you cash out your 85,000, your 105,000, and put it into real estate, let's see
Yeah.
what does that mean. What is that penalty? What are the taxes? And then what can you do with that 60,000? If you had 85,000, it's likely going to be about 60.
Yeah. So what is the penalty for people who are, not very savvy in this, or perhaps new to this? Give us a sense, roughly speaking, what would be the penalty? Suppose you have like 100 grand saved up. What's the
I
penalty on
mean,
early withdrawal?
well, instantly you have a 10% penalty, so a $10,000 penalty on that, and that the
Ouch.
Uncle Sam just says, hey, no, no good. You can't take your money for free that you already,
Wow.
and then you have to pay all the taxes on it as well. So there's a tax event that it triggers as well. And now I don't want to say Section 8 secrets. We are by no means, financial CPAs, attorneys, or anything like that. So we're giving just advice
Yeah.
that is just observations that you could go seek, the correct counsel to make a final.
Right. Right.
But these are really good guiding tools, though, that we realized there's nothing out there. I tried to find that, though. We started Googling like real estate versus 401k analysis. Does 401k actually work? And you find these different things, but there's nothing really that you could break it down in ease and see it just like we like in real estate with an underwriting tool that we always use, like our forecaster in Section 8 Secrets. Part of the platform, the program comes with a forecast tool that you can lay in bed in about 30 seconds. You could underwrite that deal. You could see your debt service ratios. You could see your cap rates. Uh,
Yeah.
you could see your annual debt service. You could see, net operating income, all that stuff in like 30 seconds. But yet you can't see any of that with 401k. And you're talking about way more of your own hard earned capital.
Yeah.
You have to put in your 401k when you've been doing it for, say, 10 years.
So you're saying that this 401k tool you guys have developed is dynamic and can be applied to like anyone. They can use this model very easily. Just this plug and play, couple numbers, right?
Yeah, exactly. There's very few things you have to plug in, and I have them just highlighted. Those cells are highlighted, and when I share my screen here, I'll go through and
Yeah.
do some of these eye-opening like uh, revelations that we had. I felt on the surface that real estate was better. I was quite confident of that.
Right.
Not just because of the autonomy and the liquidity, but because of the rewards, the gains that I've seen. I
Yeah.
was quite confident, but it feels really good to be validated and now have that with, financial numbers backing that, not just feeling, but now I know the math of it. And that was what was really fun about this project.
Very cool. Yeah. Let's
Yeah.
bring it up, Cash Allen. See what we got here.
Awesome. Yeah. Let me share my screen here. So real estate versus 401k. Here it is, guys. So Byron, what I did was we put a side-by-side analysis here. So that was what it started at. And then we turned it into formulas that you could plug in your data on. So on the left side here is the property. So in the light blue. Over here in the beige is your 401k. So
Okay.
we have to know what are the assumptions that we are going to work with on these numbers. So 4%, that's low. It's actually like 4.8 is the national like 40-year average of property appreciation. But we're
Okay.
going to go conservative on the real estate side intentionally. So we don't want to
Yeah.
act like we're overselling on the real estate side, because this was an unbiased analysis that we did. It was actually just us to reveal the actual truth here is how we felt. FMR, so fair market rate appreciation. So how much are you increasing rents by? We say 4%. That's actually really low for me. In the past 17 years, my data shows that I've done it. My increase has been 7.87%.
That's crazy, Cash. Those are huge numbers.
Yeah, and the national average is actually between 4 and 6%. So we
Why do
went
you think
low.
your increase? You're talking about 7% for yourself. Why is your rent rate increase so much better than most people than the average? What do you attribute
7.87.
that
Don't
to?
forget about that 87 too, Byron.
Yeah. The 8.7, of
I'll say
course.
this: it comes with understanding where to buy, how to buy, and
Yeah.
doing it in a prudent fashion, in a repeated fashion that is scalable.
Wow, that's
That
awesome.
Yeah, that's really the approach that I've taken. So rarely, if ever, is when important at all. So I don't try to time anything up.
Yeah.
I've just figured out the why and the where and the how. You get all that stuff figured out, and the financial side of things too. You could buy in the right areas, and you don't have to worry about timing at all. And
I
we
think it's a key
wait.
thing, Kajan, that you've done really well is that you talk about, I think in like your booklet or something, you talk about people who wait on the sidelines. They're like, oh, hey, I'm wait for the perfect timing, wait for price to go down, wait for interest rates to go down. And the reality is in real life, when mortgage rates go up, prices go down. When prices go up, mortgage rates are generally down. So it's like the timing is never right. I mean, it's never like you can't really just time it perfectly. You just got to jump in right now. The right time to jump in is right now today. It doesn't even matter what the market conditions are really.
Yeah, I would say as long as you understand the financial principles and the fundamentals of what you're doing, then the
Yeah.
timing is right now, if
Yeah.
not yesterday. So once you get everything aligned financially and you're comfortable with it, and that's why I always say in the coaching sessions I do is play with the underwriting tool, play with the forecaster tool, look at the analyzer, get comfortable with that stuff. So that way when you know what you're looking for. But it's
Yeah.
difficult if you don't really know what numbers mean what and what variables you can move the needle with if you haven't experienced it and practiced it a few times. So that's why I say the underwriting tool is really important that we offer as our forecaster tool. And that's what
And
I'm
now
referring.
I'm looking at this model you've got here too, Kajan. I noticed you got a 20% down payment. And there's some big news this past week about the 5% down payment, the DSCR, with I believe Fannie Mae, right? Did you hear about that?
Yeah,
So,
that's for a multi-unit, but we won't
oh
get
yeah. Sorry.
the nitty-gritty of that stuff. But yeah,
I digress. Continue.
that's the multi-units that yeah, exactly, that for conventional conforming Fannie Mae Freddie Mac financing recently was just passed back in mid-October that you can now purchase those with you no longer need 20% down. So that was a big news that you can do 5% down and you can move forward, and that's a huge win for those guys in the multi-units, which you
But
can do.
I'm sorry. I don't want to get like too off topic, man. Let's focus on your model here. You get 20%. Please continue with your model.
Yeah, no worries, Matt. Exciting stuff, I know.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, so looking here, so these are the assumptions that you would plug in. So the yellow and what our students are going to have access to is this. So they will plug in their numbers in the yellow. So we picked just average numbers, national average actually on the low side. So we went on the low side, mortgage rate 8%, mortgage term 30. So we're basing this off of conventional Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac financing. Your down payment 20%. So this is a single unit. We're not going to go with the multi-units here yet. You can, and you could perhaps put less down, and that will actually accelerate your victory. You can accelerate the victory, but we won't do that. So we're
Yeah.
really trying to do the very conservative side on the real estate side. Expense to rent, so that's just an expense bucket of money that you're going to likely want to put aside. So my average is actually 4%, but we're putting 10%. I'm going to look at the national average. It's like 8%, I believe, of your
Okay.
rents. You can look at it. There's different formulas that you can use for that. But yeah, so we're calling that 10%. The property taxes, I got $1,200 on that. That's going to be based on how big of a property, where you buy, and all that. So you could adjust that accordingly as well. It's not going to be a big needle mover at all. And then HOA and insurance, we have 1,700 in that, and that's annualized. That is annualized there. Closing costs, so we don't want to discount anything. So
Wow.
a lot of real estate financial measures kind of discount closing costs, but that is a percentage. And the national average is about 3% of your loan size. So you're looking at about 3% of the loan size is going to be closing costs. So that can
Wow.
amount to something fairly significant. And you can see it over here, actually, in my particular deal, that amounts to $3,800. So, it gets pretty big. So we don't want to discount that and skew the numbers in the favor of real estate. And then interest on cash. What is that? That means the money that you're putting aside to save for your next down payment. Don't put it under your bed. Don't put it in a shoebox. Put it in
Yeah.
something. Put it in a
Yeah.
CD. Put it in a brokerage account. Put it in an IRA. You can leave some money in there and then have a tranche coming out. There's, you can do a financial ladder, IRA financial ladder. But anyway, something. In other words, we don't like to have our money, and we don't want to assume money is just going to be sitting on the sideline for months and years as you get
Right.
your down payment ready for the next property that you're going to redeploy the funds into. I know I don't do it. Mine's actually at a 6%. So I just did 3%. We could definitely find that though. Just a savings account, I'm blown away. You could find hope everybody's sitting down. You could get 5.7% on your savings, man. That which is pretty wild. Like
That is
that.
crazy, man.
So anyway, that's what this number is. So that's the money that you're saving and accumulating, and you're keeping in a savings account. So that's the real estate side. I'll quickly go over here. 401k side. I'm just making assumptions. So $100,000 individual is on $100,000 salary. He is going to save $1,000. Again, hypothetical situation. That's actually pretty high. If somebody's actually saving $1,000, and that's per month, so they're putting in $1,000 into a 401k per month. The employer match 3%. I'm just saying they happen to have an employer that's willing to match, and it's up. Some employers can go as high as 6%. I think the national average is a little below 3. So we're going to go 3%. We'll go a little bit on the high side of that and call it 3%, trying to not skew the numbers. Effective contribution amount. So that's actually saying if you give 1,000, you get 3%, you're actually getting 1,250 because of the employer match. We're just saying that. Now, I don't even want to talk about vesting because employer matches don't always vest instantly, but we're going to say they do vest instantly. So that becomes your money instantly. Just say that to kind of help in a way, almost like give it a favorable side on the 401k because it needs it.
Okay.
401k needs favoring for some extent to actually even come to real estate. So taxes saved. We don't want to discount this. So here's an interesting point too. A lot of folks think, oh, it's a pre-tax, it's going in pre-taxed. It's not quite pre-taxed. That's actually, you need to finish the whole sentence. It's pre-income tax. We forgot one word. It's pre-income tax. You're still paying FICA, FUTA, Medicare. You're still paying 7.65% in taxes on your traditional 401k when you think it's pre-tax. You still are paying that. So anyway, we account for the income tax piece savings that you do have, which amounts to something fairly substantial. So yeah, you're looking at $2,732 per year in savings on the taxes saved. So we don't discount that value there. So that's going to get factored into our equations behind the scenes of how these are pretty big financial equations. Post-tax equivalent. So what am I saying here? I'm saying $1,000 contribution post-tax equates to 772.
Okay.
772. That's an important number because that's where I'm going to get next. But let me keep going through here. So 8% is the annual return. That is super skewed for 401k because
I mean that's like an ambitious return. Getting 8%, very few people, if any, get consistently 8% in the stock market.
401k is a very conservative investment model, and the national average after fees is actually 4.9. So anybody can Google that. You could look it up. But I'm trying to make this like kind of a close competition. But this is David versus Goliath, and
all right,
see when I get down here. So your fixed, this is the fixed return. What that means is that's 4% after when you retire. How much is this person going to get? And that's a 4% rule. That's a typical financial measure. You could, Dave Ramsey talks about it. Robert Kiyosaki references it in laughter, in jest, in dripping in sarcasm when he says it, because it is a silly thing, but it does work. And what they're saying is you likely won't exhaust your principal if you only take a 4% contribution. So that every year, or sorry, cash flow. So you take your money out at 4% withdrawal. And then the management fee, this is 2.22%. That is a national average. That's a big number because keep in mind, these are management fees are annual. These are annual 2.22%.
That's crazy, man. Yeah, that's a big number for sure. That's crazy.
Yeah, when you're talking millions and you're talking per year, 2.2% is a big number. Like you're talking 600, on like 1.6 million or so, you're talking over 400,000 in fees. I mean, it's like, okay, that's a real number. Yeah, because it's annual.
Right.
So now, Matt, this is where it gets exciting. So you're like, all right, well, let's get to the point here. All right, so let's assume this person has 30 years to retirement, which is realistic for a lot of people. So you're 30 years old. Because here's another shitty thing is you can't get to this money without penalties until you're 60. So let's do that. So let's hope you live for this long, but it's 30 years, right? So it's hypothetically 30 years. We could put anything you want in this tool and it'll calculate it accordingly. But anyway, so 30 years to retirement. So
Okay.
let's figure this out now. So we were saying, knowing all these assumptions, which is a butt ton of them, I know there's a real lot here. How do
Yeah.
how do we really break this down mathematically? Well, let's now try to explain this. So what we were saying is, if let's say Matt has a job, he got a job, and he instantly decides he wants to start saving in the 401k because he got that little jargon and that little one slide PDF about 401k. It instantly, in about 5 minutes, he makes a split second decision. I'm going to do $1,000 because my friend Frank does the same thing. Done
Yeah.
deal. Doesn't even think of anything else.
That's
Just
totally how it works, man. People don't even think about it. They spend their entire lives, like, decades working, but they're gonna spend a few minutes in their entire lives planning their retirement. It's absolutely ludicrous.
crazy, right? So he
Continue.
decided to
Yeah.
do $1,000. Okay,
Okay.
and then we have we'll just say we have Mike on the other side. So Mike is a little bit wary as to if he wants to put this $1,000 into 401k. Not so sure. I'm pretty slow. I want to take my time and look at some things. I want to read over some stuff. So instead of that, I have an uncle that loves real estate, we'll say. And I'm thinking, you know what? Let me save that money on the side. So, all right. So that's what's down here now. So what I'm saying here is Matt is able to get a huge head start on Mike. He's gonna put his $1,000 into his 401k, his job's 401k with a 3% match. Well,
Okay.
Mike is gonna take, what is that post tax? That $1,000 is only a measly 772. So Mike has to wait. Why does he have to wait? He has to wait to get enough money for 20% down, though. Well, how long?
Okay.
And then you think, well, how the hell long is he going to wait? Well, it actually takes me pretty long. It takes me 38 months. In the
Wow.
meantime, Matt is putting his money into 401k and he's reaping some returns, perhaps, right?
Okay.
And in this case, 8%, which is pretty lucrative, honestly. That well above the national average. So let's scroll down here. So we go down to month 38, and you're going to see 772 each passing month, slowly building, slowly building. Takes me 38 months. Why I need 29,000. I need 29,000 here, and then I'm going to deploy that into a property, and that's what's up here. So it took me right up here. You can see it took me 38 months to save that 7072, enough to cover my down payment and the closing costs right here, which will equate to about $29,200. Well, I know I could target a $126,000 property now for the payment that I want, which is $1,000. So I'm targeting a payment
Okay.
equivalent to the 401k contribution. So this payment adds up to $1,010. So that's what I'm looking at. However, so our first thing, Matt, that we were talking about, Byron, what I should say is we considered leaving it vacant. Now, sounds crazy. And you're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
Well,
vacant.
I will say this. You don't need that many vacant units literally to beat 401k. But for today's,
Come on, man.
I won't talk about vacant. What
That's
we will,
crazy.
crazy, right? But what we will do is we'll rent this out to Aunt Sally, who has barely any money, because
Yeah.
this is not an FMR. This is not a fair market rent rate. You would not, I would not rent it for $1,123. What I'm doing here is just covering my costs. Look at this. $1,123. Again, I'm trying to even this playing field of David versus Goliath.
Yeah.
Most people know cash on cash. They want to get like $300 a deal. I can tell you right now, I'm closing on a deal. I have a signed PNS. I'm going to make $448 on per month. In
Nice.
other words, I would add $448 on top of that. But I don't want, again, David versus Goliath. So I want to be somewhat of a match. So I'm breaking even. I got my Aunt Sally in there. But from that month forward and from each passing year, I will gain a little bit in FMR. So I'm going to assume a 4% appreciation. I got Aunt Sally in there at the bottom floor, level of rent. She's going to go up a little bit, 4% each year.
Yeah.
My average is 7.87%. But anyhow, so after what period of time now what am I looking at here? So 38 months, I've deployed that out. Well, now I want to talk about what does that look like? So looking over here, if I were to only hold one property for 30
Yeah.
years, this exact deal, well,
Yeah.
the cash flow favors 401k. in cash flow only, if you look at cash flow only. So all I did, you had a 38-month head start, but over here you
Okay.
can see cash flow real estate. This is calculating. This is 30 years out, guys. So there's a lot going on here in the math of this, but it's
Oh wow,
assuming
holy cow!
all
There's
this data that we just
complex
talked about
gets.
earlier.
Yeah.
It's very complex formulas. Yeah, these formulas get there's a lot going on all this to calculate these numbers are tying into everything down below. So and you could pick at it as a client and Section 8 secrets, but anyhow, so what are you looking at here? Let's look at this one deal though. So you're actually positive 233. Look at my out of pocket though. There's a reason for that. In other words, all my out of pocket was on this one particular property was 29,000. That's it. My out of pocket stopped as soon as I deployed my 29,000. And you asked, so for a listener, why? That's because I was collecting rent. So my out of pocket got
Oh
negated,
yeah.
and then my rent went on a surplus instantly, because as soon as I pumped the 4% there, it goes up, it goes positive after year one, and I'm doing this for 30 years. So after 1 year, I'm getting 4% more, and then 4% on top of that. So it's compounding. So 4% gets compounded. And so eventually I'm making a serious cash flow. So that serious cash flow though goes into a surplus, and it causes my out of pocket to go from a negative 29,200 after 30 years to 233,000. Now I do want to highlight that accounts for depreciation of 27 and a half years. That
Okay.
accounts for interest write-off as well. That's why I said it's a very complex. So it accounts
Yeah.
for the value add of interest write-off on your taxes, as well as depreciation of 27 and a half years. You could depreciate your cost on your cost basis of the property that you acquired at acquisition. So it accounts,
Okay.
but pretty awesome already, because you're looking at this and it's like, well, okay, so I actually made real money as I held this property, and I could get my cash flow as I owned it. I don't have to wait till I'm 60. So this is just one property. So down here though, you could see these assumptions stay the same for 401k, and here's what your 401k would get. This is just true. This is just facts, guys. This is just mathematics. If somebody actually saved 1,000 in their 401k, they did it for 30 years, and they had a 3% match. They had a 3% employer match, 8% annual return, and they had 2% management fee, 2.22, and they were withdrawing 4% of the value, so they don't exhaust it to zero when they retire, because that's the whole point. You want to have it until you die. You
Yeah.
take 4% out. So you're looking at these are the numbers that you're looking at. You would have spent 278,000 to my surplus of 233,000. Again,
Wow, that's crazy, man. It's a huge difference right there.
a huge difference. You can see the value though. You're like, oh, well, my value is much better. Well, right. This is the value of one property that appreciated at 4% that originally cost me 126,000 bucks.
Yeah.
And this is again conservative on the real estate side. So that's why
Okay.
my value is there. My total gain is this combined though, because I have a positive cash flow and obviously a value increase. So 579. But again, I only spent 29,000 to
Yeah,
get
that's the crazy thing, man. Yeah.
to get a value, and it's only one property. And I want to show you what happens when you do two. But and so back down here, so your total gain is 900,000 because you had to take away. You spent 278,000 to turn it into 1.1 million, and that is a net change of 904,000, net gain of 904,000. So you're winning. You're going to say, hey, Mike, so what's the deal, man? I mean, what's going on? Okay, so I'm reminding you, though, that you only spent 29,000. You have access to your money throughout your life, not when you're 60. But what happens here? What if you just took the positive gains and you just instead bought another property? Let's see what happens here, though. So this kind of ties into compound real estate. So let's
Okay.
just say you did two properties. Watch what happens when I hit enter to over here. And this is just two properties. Suddenly, it's updating. Suddenly, you're going to see a serious change. All we need is two properties to beat this guy that's putting basically all of his
Wow.
disposable income. Yeah. And remember, you stop paying on month 65. You're done.
And
In
now
real
in this
estate,
model, when you
your
talk about having two
contribution,
properties,
yep.
Keshan, when you talk about having two properties here, how long are you modeling that to take? Like how many months or years would that take from day one?
Right here, 30. So this is saying from
Oh
month
yeah.
zero. So again, Mac gets a head start in my example. Mac got a head start. He
Yeah.
was able to have a head start because he didn't need a bucket of money for a down payment and closing costs. So
Yeah.
Mac's head start was 38 months. So I couldn't save on that 772. It took me 38 months. But suddenly I have a positive cash flow going because remember 38 months, but then I start to make money. So I no longer that 772 can now go toward the next property plus a little bit of positive cash flow after year one because I have a
Yeah.
full appreciation. So now I can buy in 65, which is 27 months. That's why it takes less time. I can do it in 27 months. And look over here. I'm accounting for the time value of appreciation. It cost me 138,000 though, because it from 65 months from today, that same property that I spent in 38 months, 127 is now 138 because of appreciation. So everything I'm accounting for all those variables to then now I can buy it at 138. The same property I bought at 127 in 38 months, I could buy 27 months later because it gained 4% in 2.5 years in 27 months. So anyway, so now we're looking at 138. And now we look over here. In the case, this fight is over.
What happens if somebody wants to buy 3 properties? How do things play out?
Yeah. All right. Well, let me just recap really quick here. So the 2 property piece that we were just finishing up. So in 65 months, you bought the second property, and just reiterating that you no longer are paying a contribution amount. 165, you could stop there. You could stop and you no longer have to pay anything else because you did your down payment because you're renting it out at the minimum amount of rent and just breaking even, but you're no longer contributing, but you're gaining all the value from appreciation. And by the way, appreciation isn't of your down payment, it's appreciating of the price of the value of the property, which is awesome too.
So let me get this straight, Cash. You're saying that basically if somebody buys 2 properties within 65 months, am I hearing that right? Then they're going to catch up with somebody who's investing their 401k for 30 years. Like they're going to surpass them actually.
Oh, they'll definitely surpass them, but understand. Yeah,
it's crazy.
This, though. This is a comparison of 30 years out, though, too. So this is over here. We're looking at the future. So 30 years out, what are those 2 measly properties going to do? Well, they're going to show that you don't have. Not only is your out of pocket not negative, it's positive. It's positive. Like I said it before, because of because of depreciation and because of taxes and because you're renting it out and you're making.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, and it isn't even a big number, though, that you're starting with, because imagine if you go in here, and I probably shouldn't mess with it because I'm realizing it is a formula right in here. But instead of it being, if I just cut, I don't, for the essence of time, I won't go into here. But if you just put 1,400, like I said earlier in the call here, I'm renting it out for at least 450 profit or more. Some of my properties are making 900 profit. I'm just showing you a break even, and then you get 4% appreciation of rent per year from breaking even. But that's really conservative. This model is extremely conservative on the real estate side and favors 401k, just so this David versus Goliath is somewhat of a match, but it really is.
I respect that.
So again, so back over here though, you're out of pocket. Obviously, your 401k, you haven't messed with these numbers. Is still you spent 278,000. I didn't spend anything to get this because I'm collecting what I would spend in contributions in rent plus some. Plus, I have a surplus. And after 30 years, because in 65 months, that was my last time I spent my own money, was in 65 months. And on my repairs and everything the upkeep and all that is factored in here. And that's factored in with the growth as well. So the cost increase is 10%. It's 10% of the rent amount. So when the rent goes up 4%, that it's going up 10% of that is also going for the cost of repair and vacancy. So it's all being accounted for. So ultimately, though, 517. So now it gets super silly, but you could see here, you could actually buy your next one in 23 months. And you say, well, how's that? How is it going down? First one's 38 because you're still putting in the 772, but now you have 2 properties that have a positive cash flow. So you're going to accelerate. And now you buy the next one in 88 months. And what is it? 88 months from the time, in my example, from the time Matt got his new job and started contributing to 401k. And now if you put 3, this is where you're just like, wait, 3 lousy properties. It's going to register here shortly. And you can see it's a absolute landslide victory on the properties piece. Again, super conservative. You're breaking even to start. when you purchase it. You're just to break even, and you're still winning by a significant amount. So my total out of pocket is the 29,000. It's right here. My total out of pocket, it adds up to whatever that $95,000 is what I spent to get these
Yeah.
three properties. That's my initial capital.
Okay.
And so I spent 95,000 to get a total gain of 1.7 million.
That's crazy, man. That's absolutely
Yeah.
insane, right?
Versus 401k spends. But keep in mind though, when I say I spent, I actually make that money back. And that's
Yeah.
why there's a surplus. So I originally spent, I should preface that. So I originally spent 95,000. I was negative 95,000, actually never, because I started making profit after my second year on my first property. In year two, I started making money because I got 4%, because I only started out breaking even. I was making money. This is where it's complicated. There's a lot going on. So
Yeah.
so 38 months. So 38. So on month 50, I started profiting on property one in month 50 from the month 50. So 50 months from the time Matt, in my example, started contributing to his 401k, my property started making me 4% of the rent amount of 1,123. Same thing happens, after year two, after 65. So in month 80, or I should say in month 77, I started making money on property two as well. And then 12 on this. So in month 100 on my third property, I started profiting on the cash flow. So in 100 months, I had three properties cash flowing with a surplus, plus the
Yeah.
write off and depreciation, plus the write off on interest. Means my out of pocket was it not actually negative? It actually gains me 777,000 out of
That's
pocket
crazy, man.
from the
That's
tax.
insane. The difference is massive.
Massive. So look, 1.7 million with three properties. I can
Now,
also
you know what, Cash? I'm looking at your model here, and honestly, I would say that your model is way too conservative on the real estate side. Way too
yeah,
conservative. In fact, somebody buying their first property is honestly they should be using the FHA program for each one of those four properties. So rather
yeah,
than putting 20% down, what happens, Cash?
yeah,
What happens if you change that 20% to 5%?
yeah. Well, I mean, yeah,
Let's just see what happens because this is
I'd
real
have to,
life, man. This really can happen.
yeah, I'd have to delete these, assume that I'm not doing anything there, and
Yeah,
you're already it's updating right now. So these aren't the numbers yet, but I updated that,
yeah.
and let's see what that does. Let's see what that does. Right.
I think
So
that's a more realistic scenario. 100%.
it absolutely can be. Yeah, yeah. And I try to purposely not make this as David as Goliath as it is, but it definitely is.
Yeah,
So that tells me right here, if you're only putting 5% down, look at that head start that you had 38 months when it was me versus you. You now only have a 12-month head start.
wow.
Yeah, so big difference there. So
Yeah,
now, and look at this, just one measly property after 30 years. Again, this is looking in the future over here.
yeah,
Been making almost 2,400 a month with one property with 5% down. That measly 5%, which is right over here, I spent a whopping 8,500. But remember, I'm also just breaking even in the first year, but then I start making money plus the benefits that taxes and depreciation benefit
yeah.
real estate. My out of pocket is a surplus of 291 and a cash flow of 2,400.
That's crazy, man.
So
Those the differences are huge.
yeah, so then you could buy your second one if you were to do it.
Yeah,
And obviously then it just gets ridiculous there. So yeah, I mean, you're obviously two properties if you could buy two with 5% down, which you possibly can. There's alternative financing. There's subject to, like I talked about at that meeting that I did last week. There's favorable things that you can do for alternative financing that become creative to the advantage of the purchaser and the
you
seller.
know, I almost say, Kajal, to like kind of sum up the findings of your model, basically, like in like the most simplistic form, that if a person is to buy a 4 unit property with 5% down, they'll probably crush anyone with a 401k. Like that's like the first move. Like that one move up front probably sets them up for life.
Yeah,
And
what?
then buying additional properties, they're just like running laps around anyone in a 401k. And I hope that they do buy other properties. I'm just saying like the FHA 5% down first time homebuyer program is absolutely amazing. People can buy a 4 unit, a three, a two, and a one property per year. They can only have one mortgage at a time. But if they use that intelligently, they can absolutely crush the 401k. But
Absolutely.
I'm kind of going off on a slight tangent here, but
Oh, that's a good thing to do, Byron. It's fine. It's exciting. It's interesting, and it's just not
yeah.
talked about, right? Like we don't talk about this stuff. Like even at work, it's like taboo to talk about the 401k, talk about your finances, talk about like I'm not even saying talk about salary, but people don't talk about and you kind of grow up that way too. I feel like this is
Yeah.
an archaic way to not talk about the finances. Don't talk about what dad makes. Don't talk about what mom makes. But those are some of the basic things to better understand the value of money and time and
And I
our
think that's one thing is where you and I are probably unique is that you and I we talk about real estate deals like nonstop 24/7. And I think people who have that kind of passion, they're just they've got so much more knowledge than people who just choose their 401k during their lunch break. Like, the
yeah.
we can
And,
just run circles around them.
and you know what's an interesting thing too is when we look at this and remember the
Yeah.
4% rule. So just to kind of close this out. So here's your three properties that we're talking about.
Yeah.
The out of pocket, my out of pocket is nothing now. It actually I've made $777,000, 100,000, and I'm making 7,000 in positive cash flow on these three measly properties. This guy, Matt, in 401k example, is making almost 4,000. So,
Yeah.
but remember this though, he's doing the 4% just so his account doesn't go to zero before he dies. I wanted to say
That's right. Yeah.
one thing though. Remember over here, I'm making 7,000, but time out, guys, time out. First of all, I could be making that in perpetuity forever. Second
Yeah.
of all, it goes up. Mine's not capped. This goes up every passing year after I retire. This is just what it would look like after 30 years. So on your 31st year, this would be the worst year for you. Your 31st year on the real estate side will be your worst financial year, and it's 7,000. This over here on 401k, this will be your best because it is not increasing in value. It's depleting, and you're not getting more. You're staying at this number. And guess what? Over here, it's going up every year. Not only is your total gain keeps going up too, guys, because it's compound real estate. And guess what? It doesn't stop when you quote unquote retire because there is no retirement age. You could do this in 15 years or 18 like me. Like this can happen much sooner and accelerate it, but it doesn't stop when you stop. When you physically stop,
Yeah.
real estate keeps working for you, which
That's
is
the crazy
crazy.
thing. Now, Casual, I know we're running out of time here. Got just a few minutes left. What now? Let's like accelerate to a really awesome scenario here. Suppose me buys 10 properties in your model. I don't think you can model that quickly or not. I'm curious to see how that compares to a 401k.
Oh yeah, I mean, and remember, this is ultra conservative though. Uh,
Yeah.
I have a compounding formula table that would show you the real, but let's go ahead and do it. Yeah,
And
let's
we're
see what.
assuming down payments of 20% now. So we're not going back to my 5%, which is completely reasonable. So if people don't know, research FHA first time homebuyer program or research the new DSCR program that came out November 18th of 2023. I think it just came out this past weekend, basically.
Yeah, true. You could buy multiple 4 units to accelerate this significantly. And keep in mind also,
Yeah.
like you know what we're not doing is we're not cash out refining. We have
Oh
serious
yeah, dude,
we
that's
have
crazy. That's
insane
crazy, man.
liquidity. You could go and take
That's
that money out. Yeah, you're just sitting. Yeah, you're just sitting with all this equity, man. You are rich
oh
in
my god,
equity. You
I
know
love it.
that you aren't even touching, which is crazy to think about. Yeah, here you go. Here's your
So,
numbers.
so break it down for us. What's it mean?
Yeah, so this means so from the time you started, Matt in the example started contributing to his 401k in
Yeah,
166 months. Uh,
yeah,
sounds long, but that's really not that long.
yeah. It's like
In what is 13 years or something? I doing quick math.
probably 13, 14 years. Yeah,
Yeah,
something like
so
that.
in 13 years, 14 years, I would have bought 10 properties. And I would have been able to do that because this math doesn't lie. I'm still putting aside that 772. I still have these positive cash flows that are happening. And now over here, I would have made I not only do I not have an out of pocket by in on the 31st year after I've done this for 30 years, now I'm ready to step away. I would have made in positive cash flow and my benefits of tax depreciation and principal write-off 1.9 million. Not only do I not have an out of
Freaking
pocket
crazy.
and I'm making 21,515 bucks my 31st year when I said I'm bowing out.
Wow,
And that's my worst year, just to reiterate that point.
dude,
Because
21 grand versus like 4 grand. That's huge. That's in perpetuity.
yeah, yeah, I know.
Wow.
And then, and then you go over here and just to show that's, then well, we won't get too crazy, but oh, I wanted
And you've
that.
got like 5 million in real estate, you're saying, right?
Well, yeah, I wanted to show. So then it goes up $860 per month just in
Crazy.
my year 2 after I retire. So I just want to show that
Crazy, man.
this is growing. This is not. This is staying. This will stay that 4% because it won't work if you increase this. This is where the government has some set minimums as well. But this is where they're saying this rule of this 4% rule says if you take a little bit more than that, you're going to start depleting it, and you're going to outlive your money.
That's crazy.
Outlive your money, and you don't want to do that when you retire.
Kajan, we got to wrap it up in a minute here. I just want to say that after seeing this presentation of yours, I'm sold on this 100%. And I'm actually going to share this with my friends and family who all have 401ks. I'm going to tell them they're absolutely crazy. And I'm absolutely going to recommend this model because this puts it, maps out very clearly.
Yeah.
I'll give you the final word, Cash. We got 30 seconds here. Go for it, brother.
Awesome, Matt. Thanks, man. And don't get me wrong, 401k has its place. It does. I'm not saying we're anti 401k, especially if there's a match. At least do the match, max out on the match. But seriously consider real estate and come check us out. Section8secrets.com. We have beginners, we have advanced people, we have some with 0 properties, we have some with 15 properties. It's a really fun community, though. Check us out. Matt, thanks again, man. I love spitballing these things. And
yeah, Kajan, this is great information. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We'll see you around. Cheers.
All right, Matt. Take care.